Thank you everyone for being here on this Saturday morning. My name is Isabelle. I'm a PhD candidate at HEC Montréal, and today I'll be presenting to you a paper that I've been working on for some time now, which is Embracing Digitalization in AI, a taxonomy of tools developed for labor organizations. So basically what I wanted to do with this paper was really to map out the digital and AI experimentations that are conducted by labor organizations. And this was in order to ascertain the theoretical, empirical, and practical importance of this phenomena. So it's not really something that is well known right now. And I wanted to, well, I hope to see throughout this literature review how, like the what, why, and how of these tools in order to better situate them within labor organizations' global strategies. So I think it's important to stress out here that I didn't focus on tools solely developed and used by unions. I really included tools that are instigated by any type of labor organization or worker collective, because there's a lot of overlap and it didn't feel really useful to separate them at this time. So why did I consider this to be important? Well, as we've seen over time, there has been a lot of interest about how digital tools are used by labor organizations, but most of the focus has been placed on social media. And although social media has a lot of good sides, when I went to union trainings or union seminars, I noticed that there was some experimentation going on, and I thought, well, it could be interesting to see how these experimentations kind of complement what social media can provide. And so I thought, so there's still something to do about how those organizing collective actions actually appropriate AI and digital capacities in order to create tools that are designed for their specific needs. So by developing a taxonomy, I kind of hope to provide guidelines for future research and also to help field actors in their future experimentations. So how did I do this? Well, I conducted an extensive literature review on the topic, and this may not come as a surprise, but there was not much academic literature on digital and AI experimentation. So I found some, but I mostly based my review of the literature on gray literature. So union documentation, labor organization documentation, union training seminars and all that, and also the website of tools that are developed by different organizations. And I had 4 inclusion criteria for the tools that I selected for my sample. So first, they had to be built by and or for the specific needs of labor organizations. Second, they had to not be accessible for use by employers. So this led me to exclude tools such as Dextero or Thought Exchange, which were interesting, but could also be used by employers. And thirdly, I excluded all forms of social media with the exception of chatbots that were supported by Messenger, because they were one of the only uses of AI by labor organizations. And even though they were supported by Messenger, I thought it was interesting to include them in the sample. And finally, the applications could be either web or mobile, but they needed to have interactive components and functionalities. So Web 2.0 functionalities. I didn't want to use a website that was just a simple website that could be consulted for information. The user had to be able to interact with it. So this led me to develop this taxonomy, which the final sample includes 25 different tools. So when I was doing my literature review, I was collecting tools on the internet, and I had like these criteria for evaluating the different tools that I was using. So I was looking at the rationale, the goal or aim, who was developing it, who it was destined to, what were its main components. And as I was collecting the tools, I was trying to classify them into groups and then subgroups. And then I was looking for more tools to confirm if my groups were okay. And this led me to create basic categories, 3 main categories based on the rationale, because I found that this was actually the best way for me to discriminate between the different tools. And then I use the goal or aim of the tools to develop subcategories to even stratify even more the tools that were being developed. So I'll go over each of these categories, and for each one, I'm providing an example as well. So the first category is the efficiency categories, which include tools that are mainly used by labor organizations in order to facilitate the management of their members. So we have two subcategories for these. The organizing subcategory, which is the most popular one in the tools. If you keep looking for tools, actually, you'll find that most of them are in this category. And they're really aimed at adapting strategies to mobilize current members, recruit new members, facilitate the setup of collective action, and these are only used by unions or labor organizers. So the members don't use these they don't have access to the organizing tools. And the second form, communicating or consulting, are used by both organizations and their members to facilitate the development of various communication channels, so top down, bottom up, or horizontal. One interesting example of these tools is Sentinelle, which is actually a tool that is developed in Quebec by a Quebec organization. And this tool is not union built. It is built by an external organization, and it's aimed at small local unions that don't necessarily have the budget to do in-house experiments. So through this tool, the union organizers have access to member portfolios, so they can collect data about their members to understand them better. They can send massive emails to a great pool of members, and also manage assemblies, collective agreements, committees, complaints, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very useful tool for labor organizers. The second category in my taxonomy is the empowerment category. So all of the tools in this category are aimed at providing workers with information in order to help them understand better their working rights or their working conditions. So the main user of all of these tools are really the workers, not the organizers. So the first type, knowledge transfer, this includes all the chatbots. So it's basically tools where workers will ask their questions and then the chatbot will give them answers. So it's quick information gathering for workers. The second type, data aggregation individual, allows workers to track and collect data about various aspects of their work. And this provides them with patterns and fact sheets, so to help them kind of improve their working conditions in their work setting. And the third type, community building, are tools that are aimed at supporting worker-led initiatives within their workplace by facilitating community building in their local environment. Now, a good example of this is WorkIt. So WorkIt was created by the US, in the US by Organization United for Respect. And this allows workers to get answers quickly about their working conditions and working rights. WorkIt is mainly designed for Walmart workers for now, but it's still an interesting platform for these workers. It also allows them to get in touch with each other, share experiences, get advice. And so to this end, it was classified as an empowerment tool in my taxonomy. The final category is the capacity building one, which is aimed at developing collective power, and it's mainly used by labor organizations. So the first one, network and solidarity tools, are aimed at expanding labor organizations' network beyond their local ecosystems. So connecting with other unions from around the world or other labor organizations from around the world to develop global strategies. And the last one, data aggregation collective, is it allows organizations, and this is mainly used by unions, but also by other forms of worker collectives, to aggregate information about their members. And this allows them to have data-based evidence that will support the demands that they make to improve worker rights or worker conditions. And an example of this data aggregation collective is teacher tap, which is not used by unions, but it's used by teachers in the UK. It was actually an idea of 2 teachers in the UK. So every day, teachers get questions on their smartphone, and they will answer the questions regarding their working conditions, working rights. And then this data will be aggregated, and it assists data-informed policymaking regarding education and also teachers' working conditions in the UK. So it really helps make data-informed decisions. So what my analysis demonstrates for now is that there are a variety of actors, tools, and purposes. And when we sort them out, it kind of clarifies what they're meant to do, but it also clarifies what the main priority for now is when labor organizations tend to develop these tools, which is mainly for the efficiency of managing the collective actions. There are also various lifespans to the tools. So when I started looking at them, there were this sample of tools, and then over time, some of them died out, new ones came up. So they don't have an equal lifespan. And what I noticed is that when they develop collaboration between, for instance, unions and labor organizations, and when it's more grassroots led, the lifespan is longer than if it's developed in isolation by one organization. Also, another interesting thing that my analysis demonstrates is that there are various philosophies behind the question of data management, which induces differences in the level of transparency of the tools for workers. So on one end of the continuum, you have these labor organizations that will say, okay, well, organizations already collect so much data about the workers that we really want to let the workers manage their own data and give us the data that they want to give us, and we won't have control over it because we need to empower them with regards to what their own personal data. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have these organizations that will say, well, you know, all the other organizations are collecting data, they're providing data-based evidence, so we need to collect more and more and more data about the workers too. That way we can also have data-informed requests and influence them, other organizations in this way. So this is quite interesting as well. So what I do hope that my paper will, how I hope it will contribute to research is by clarifying an understanding of the way that these specific purpose applications are developed and operated. And this, to my knowledge, is kind of a first in the literature. I also wanted and hope that this shed lights on the diversity of rationales and goals and aims of these tools. And finally, I hope that this allows to contrast kind of the use of these tools with the use of social media and shed light on how they can actually be complementary, but how it's also difficult to develop these kind of tools for use. So thank you.